Britain changed in Queen Victoria's lifetime, almost overnight. Iron, brick, and steam remade daily streets. Rails stitched towns together, mile after mile. Sewers ran unseen, saving lives quietly. This is how the Victorians built Britain. They planned Britain with paper and patience. Surveyors measured gradients, curves, and distances. Parliament approved routes, bridges, and tunnels. Money flowed from cities into grand schemes. Every mark on maps became stone later. Thousands of laborers dug with hand tools. They shifted clay, chalk, and stubborn rock. Tunnels began as black mouths in hillsides. Pay packets fed families in rented rooms. Work was hard. Pride was harder still. The Victorian city devoured brick by millions. Bazalgette's sewers alone used staggering quantities. 318 million bricks went underground. Kilns burned day and night beside rivers. Britain's modern shape was fired in heat. Big projects needed acts, votes, and signatures. The underground required parliamentary approval and inspection. Railway companies proposed lines to Parliament repeatedly. Some plans passed. Many were rejected quietly. Victorian Britain was built through arguments too. Railways became Victorian Britain's new nervous system. Engineers set standards for smoother, faster running. Brunel's routes demanded bridges, viaducts, and tunnels. Stations rose as gateways to growing towns. Time itself began to feel more exact. Rivers forced Victorians to think in arches. Bridges carried trains above floods and fog. These spans were civic monuments in stone. They joined markets, mills, and seaside resorts. A journey became ordinary. That was revolutionary. Iron frames let Britain build lighter and higher. Great bridges used daring engineering and teamwork. Royal Albert Bridge opened in 1859. Such structures proved iron could carry nations. Engineering became a kind of public theatre. London grew crowded. Streets jammed with traffic. Victorians cut trenches beneath busy roads. They covered them. The city carried on. Cut and Cover built the first underground stretch. It was disruption, then relief, then habit. The Metropolitan Railway opened in 1863. Gaslit carriages ran behind steam engines. Stations linked Paddington, King's Cross, and Farringdon. The air was thick. The idea still worked. Modern commuting began in soot underground. Surface travel remained noisy and slow, too. Omnibuses and cabs traced new city routes. Railways changed how Londoners imagined distance. Timetables became promises. Missed trains felt personal. Infrastructure shaped minds, not just streets. In Hyde Park, glass and iron shocked. The Great Exhibition opened in 1851. Paxton's building rose in 9 months only. Over 2,000 workers built that palace. Britain displayed industry like a new religion. Inside, machinery gleamed beneath glass daylight. The building was tall enough for elms. Punch called it the Crystal Palace, mockingly. That nickname stuck. Britain remembered the structure. It proved new materials could feel magnificent. London's growth brought filth, smell, and fear. Sewage reached the Thames. Disease followed quickly. The Great Stink of 1858 hit. It forced action from leaders and engineers. The crisis became a construction order. Joseph Bazalgette designed a city-wide sewer network. Brick-lined tunnels carried waste away safely. Pumping stations lifted flow when gravity failed. Portland cement helped the system survive decades. Much of it still serves London today. Sewers reshaped the Thames riverbank itself. The Victoria Embankment opened by 1870. It protected low-level sewers and new transport. Roads and gardens replaced old tidal mud. Engineering became scenery for everyday walks. Pumping stations were cathedrals of sanitation. They combined machinery, decoration, and civic purpose. Workers kept engines running through cold nights. London's health improved when sewage stopped spreading. Progress sometimes sounded like pistons and steam. Gaslighting pushed darkness back from streets. By 1850, Bristol had nearly 2,000 lamps. Lamplighters worked methodically along evening routes. Light improved safety and trade after dusk. The night became part of city life. Some Victorian lamps still burn in London. Around 1,500 working gas lamps remain. Cast iron posts carried pipes up to lanterns. Their glow feels softer than electric brightness. It is history, still lit, still present. Ports expanded to feed factories and markets. Liverpool built new docks for steam shipping needs. Works in 1864 to 67 increased capacity. Gates, passages, and basins organized relentless movement. Britain's wealth often arrived on wet quays. Victorians improved passenger travel as well. Liverpool's Prince's Landing stage opened in 1857. Floating pontoons met tides without fuss. Queues moved from ship to street smoothly. Seaside trips and emigration both became simpler. Cities built town halls to show confidence. Manchester Town Hall was built 1868 to 77. It stood for civic pride and municipal power. Stonework and towers made government visible daily. Victorian building was also a statement. A fire destroyed Westminster's Old Palace in 1834. Victorians rebuilt Parliament in bold Gothic style. The new building opened in 1870. Barry and Pugin shaped a national symbol. Architecture became politics, carved in stone. Victorian London demanded a new Thames crossing. Tower Bridge was built 1886 to 94. Engineer John Wolfe Barry worked with Horace Jones. Twin bascules lifted roadways for passing ships. Even utility could be made theatrical. Victorians also built green relief for towns. Birkenhead Park used an Act of 1843. Joseph Paxton reshaped marshland into landscapes and lakes. It offered free open-air space for families. Parks were infrastructure for lungs and minds. Park-making became a public movement nationwide. Many parks were financed from the public purse. Designers brought estate skills into working districts. Facilities included sports grounds and gathering spaces. Civic care could be measured in trees. Housing had to keep up with industry. Terraced houses packed families into narrow valleys. Law began setting street widths and rear yards. Rules demanded drainage, ventilation, and basic light. The terrace became Britain's most common form. Many homes still lacked indoor plumbing then. Backyards held privies and shared wash spaces. A scullery meant hard work behind doors. Sanitation reforms came slowly, street by street. Victorian comfort often meant simply being less damp. Not everyone shared in Victorian prosperity. Workhouses were built with strict, segregated layouts. Courtyards divided men and women with high walls. Dormitories, yards, and offices formed a controlled machine. Architecture could punish as much as protect. Education needed buildings, not just good intentions. Board schools were the first state-run schools. Local boards could raise funds and build new classrooms. They could even compel attendance between 5 and 13. Brick schools trained minds for industrial Britain. After 1858, London demanded real sanitation solutions. Bazalgette's system was completed in 1875. It relied on brick tunnels and powerful pumping stations. Thousands dug by hand deep under streets. The The Thames changed. Londoners lived longer. Underground building did not stop at one line. The district's first section opened in 1868. Tracks pushed from South Kensington towards Westminster quickly. Later, lines reached Blackfriars and Mansion House. By 1884, the inner circle was complete. Victorian builders used materials older Britain barely trusted. Iron, plate glass, and terracotta spread across London. Portland cement strengthened sewers against constant water pressure. Brick was cheap. Skill was not. Every innovation left marks on streets and skylines. Civic buildings taught citizens who held responsibility. Manchester's Town Hall rose between 1868 and 77. It embodied civic pride at industrial peak. Gaslighting extended public life into evenings. A city became a stage, and everyone watched. These works still hold up our daily lives. If British history matters, keep these stories alive. Please subscribe to this channel for more documentaries. Press the bell for notifications and share widely. Help honor builders, planners, and laborers we rarely name. Tower Bridge was built to match nearby history. Designers echoed the White Tower's medieval presence. Construction ran from 1886 to 94. Its bascules pivoted to let river traffic through. Victorian engineering balanced beauty, commerce, and congestion. Dock systems were machines, not simple shorelines. Liverpool's new docks answered steamshipping's pressing demand. They used multiple passages and paired dock gates. Basins separated trades and controlled water levels. Such organization made a global port run daily. London's Victorian architecture mixed old styles and new. Gothic revival sat beside iron and glass. Transport expansion encouraged bigger streets and materials. Terracotta and plate glass became more common features. The city looked backward, while building forward aggressively. Birkenhead Park broke the grid of streets nearby. Paxton designed it in 1844, landscape style. Undulating earthworks, trees, and lakes formed a public refuge. Victorian villas bordered the park, as planned. Urban well-being became something councils could physically provide. Terraces housed the labor that powered industry. Legislation demanded set street widths and rear open space. Drainage, lighting, and ventilation became minimum expectations. Yet many streets still felt cramped and smoky. Britain's homes were built fast, then improved slowly. Board schools rose where voluntary schooling was inadequate. Local boards could raise rates to fund buildings. They ran non-denominational schools for ordinary families. Bylaws could make attendance compulsory, ages 5 to 13. Education became an infrastructure as real as tracks. Workhouses were built as systems of separation. Courtyards split male and female sides with tall walls. Dormitories were reached by external iron staircases. Workrooms and yards enforced routines and silence. Victorian Britain built care, but also control. The Crystal Palace was a construction miracle of speed. Over 2,000 workers built it within 9 months. Glass was not widely used as building material before. The structure held trees, an organ, and fountains. Victorian confidence could be seen through transparent walls. Before opening, the underground faced official inspections. Approval came in early 1863 after changes. Trials ran, then a ceremonial run and banquet followed. Crowds packed stations on the first public day. Victorian London trusted progress, even when air reeked. The embankments did more than hide sewers. They reclaimed land, creating roads and riverside gardens. Albert and Victoria embankments opened by 1870. They also sheltered a service subway and railway. Victorian solutions stacked functions, one atop another, efficiently. Gas lighting evolved into brighter mantle lamps later. Curved brackets placed light lower, pointing downwards. Cast iron posts lined curbs, lighting road and footpath. Maintenance required trimming, refueling, and nightly rounds. Infrastructure depended on human routines as much engineering. Railways did not just carry passengers, they carried cities. Bricks, iron, and cement arrived faster, in bulk. Stations and goods yards became arteries for construction sites. Ports and docks fed inland rails with imports. Britain became one connected building yard, morning to night. Behind every scheme stood ordinary domestic lives. Terraces housed workers close to mills, docks, and rails. Many families still fetched water and used outside privies. Public sewers and cleaner streets changed childhood risks. Progress arrived as small comforts, not speeches. Look across Britain. Victorian fingerprints remain everywhere. Parliament's rebuilt palace opened in 1870. Tower Bridge rose from 1886 to 94. Underground trains began running in 1863. Sewers, docks, and parks still hold society together. The Victorians built fast, but they built for decades. They layered rail, sanitation, lighting, and civic pride. Some projects began from crisis, like 1858. Others came from ambition, like the Great Exhibition. Either way, Britain still stands on their workmanship.